Hey guys, just wanted to throw this in here after re-looking at the footage of the thing you're about to see. So for some reason, OBS Studio, which is what I'm using for editing, that keeps cutting off the video at a certain point and leaves a bunch of it out, and it's really doing that now. It does it with this one, because like not even by the end of it, it was 21 minutes by the end of it, and it cut it about 15 minutes in. So I don't know why it did that. I've tried to do a couple versions of this, and it keeps doing the same thing. So I'm just gonna leave the original version. Also, I'm sorry for the way this looks. I know it's not the greatest quality. I know it like freezes at points, but I don't know what I can do about it, because editing it the way I used to, it's just not possible. It's not an option for me right now. Life has caused that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna leave it in. I just wanted to throw that out there. If you want to watch the original video, which I don't blame you if you do for this one, it will be in the description. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in there, just so you guys knew what was going on and why this video seems like it cuts halfway through. Alright guys, enjoy the video and enjoy my reaction. Hello everybody, welcome to another reaction video here on Lars Inc. It is time for another Mr. Ballin reaction. In this one we got disturbing footage no one can explain. The Lars Mittank story, that's how I'm going to say his name. I probably have it wrong. So we're going to get into this one. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. And we begin in 3, 2, 1.
What's up guys, Mr. Ballin here. You probably know me from TikTok, where I tell scary stories and kind of interesting, true crime stories, that kind of thing. But hopefully you're starting to look at my content on YouTube. Granted, it's not nearly as robust as what I have on TikTok, but I'm genuinely making a push to make this YouTube my primary platform to tell my stories on. So please, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try to do at least one, or I am going to do at least one video on YouTube a week, if
Definitely subscribe to his channel. Recommend it. Definitely subscribe.
not two. And as I get, frankly, better at creating the videos, I will try to do more as well. So please subscribe, turn on notifications. I'd really appreciate it. So today we're going to be covering the disappearance of Lars Mittank. So this particular case is not new. It's been covered a ton on YouTube, on Reddit. I mean, it's everywhere. But the reason it's so popular, or I should say it's drawing so much interest, is because there's this fascinating video that goes with the case. Basically, Lars, who disappears, we see his final moments on a closed-circuit TV camera at an airport, and there's multiple camera angles. It's right in front of you. It's not hard to see what he's doing. There's multiple witnesses. There's so much information around kind of what led up to this, from doctors, from his friends, and then there's this video. Like, there's just so much information, and no one knows what happened or where he is. So let's dive in. On June 30th, 2014, Lars Mittank and 4 of his friends, these guys are all in their 20s, they left northern Germany, where they were all from. They lived, they worked there, and made their way to Bulgaria. They were staying at a very popular seaside resort called the Golden Sands, and they were just going to have a nice vacation, a nice week-long vacation. They get there, they check into their hotel, and promptly begin to relax. And everything is going great. They're, going to the clubs, they're going to the beach, they're eating good food. I mean, it's going the way they had hoped it would go, until the end of the trip. So on one of the last days of their trip, July 6th, Lars is at a local bar, and they're watching a soccer game. And something happens where Lars basically voices his interest in one team, and the locals that were in the bar, they were supporting the other team. And so they start, arguing, but it escalates really quickly. It turned into a full-blown thing. His friends come in, they pull him out. There was no physical violence in the bar. It was just an altercation that could have gone to blows, but it didn't. Later that night, Lars and his friends, they're getting ready to shut it down for the night, and they go to a McDonald's. And so Lars doesn't want to go in, so he stays outside, and his 4 friends go in to get some food. When they come out...
Tired of using your gross mop? WetJet uses a fresh pad. It's a cleaner way to clean.
Lars is gone. And so
Stupid ass.
they're sitting around waiting for him, and he's nowhere to be found. And they say, okay, well, maybe, he went back to the hotel. Perhaps he just wanted to crash early. So they go back to the hotel, and he's not there. And so they kind of are faced with this decision of like, well, what do we do? And they're like, well, he's an adult. I'm sure he's fine, and I bet he'll turn up soon. So they just kind of write it off and say, Lars will come back. And so...
Nice friends you got there, Lars. God damn, you disappear after pissing off an entire bar of people, and they still just go, yeah, he's fine. God damn, people need to think if there's something not feel right, look for the person. Stop doing we'll be fine. Look for them. And most of the time what ends up somewhat on your hands because you didn't go look for them.
So they go to bed. When they get up, Lars had returned, and he had this kind of bizarre story about why he was missing. He said that this group of men who he thought were either Russian or locals, so Bulgarians, had attacked him, and he was convinced that they had been sent after him by the people he had been fighting with in the bar over that soccer game, that they had kind of ordered a hit on Lars. And that was his whole story. And so, his friends are looking at him and they're like, why did you leave? If you had been fighting with them, wouldn't it have occurred right outside the McDonald's and we would have come out and found you? You had to have gone somewhere for this to happen, or they had to entice you to go somewhere to leave the McDonald's. And then how long did this attack take? Because this is midnight, let's say, they're at McDonald's and you're not back at the hotel for 4, 5, 6 hours. The time didn't make any sense. But ultimately, they kind of decided that, Lars just had a weird night. He's back now. He is safe. So let's just write it off.
What is wrong with people? Why do they keep writing stuff? What? Oh, yeah, this man was gone for 5, 6 days. He just had a weird night. Just, had something. It's weird. He had a weird night, but he's fine. He's fine. And there's nothing wrong with him at all. Why does every story end up with this? There's this moment where it's completely obvious something's not right, but everyone's like, it's fine, they're fine. It's all good. Dumbasses.
He was attacked, but we're leaving here today anyways. Lars said that he got hit in the ear during the scuffle with these 4 assailants. And so just to be safe, they said, Lars, you should go to the doctor. You should just get it looked at before we fly home. So Lars goes to a doctor who examines him, and he looks in his ear, and it turns out Lars has a perforated eardrum. And, at first, the doctor actually suggested surgery, which Lars refused. He didn't want to do surgery in Bulgaria. If he was going to do surgery, he would have done it back home in Germany. And he instead goes for the antibiotic that this doctor prescribes him, which is called cefuroxime. So here's an image of it. You can see it for yourself. So he gets this antibiotic, and the doctor tells him that, flying, because he was scheduled to fly home with his friends back to Germany that night, flying could be problematic for someone with a perforated eardrum, because the change in air pressure as you're flying could potentially make the damage to your ear worse. And so the doctor suggested that you don't fly home with your friends tonight. Instead, you delay your trip home a couple of days, and you just kind of let your ear, recover a little bit before you fly home. So Lars goes back and he tells his friends what's going on with his ear and what the doctor said. And their first thought is, well, we'll stay with you. We'll stay here with you. We'll all delay our flights, and we'll fly home together in a couple of days. But Lars was adamant. Maybe he was just trying to be a good friend and not make them worry. He just said, look, I'm going to be totally fine. You guys take your scheduled flight tonight. Go home. I'm fine. I'll get a cheap hotel. I'll stay here for a couple of days, and then I'll make my way home. It's not a big deal. So Lars...
I would have just went on the plane. No, I know it could have made the year worse, but you know what? I can deal with that there. I can deal with that back in Germany. I'm just getting out of this stupid place. I'd be... I go back on that plane.
And his 4 friends, they take off for the airport. His friends go into the airport and fly home to Germany. And Lars goes to look for a hotel near the airport because he's only going to be delaying his trip a couple of days, and he'd rather just be close to the airport. So he finds this cheap hotel called the Hotel Color. And so this is really where Lars's behavior starts becoming totally bizarre. So around midnight, Lars calls his mother and he tells her that she needs to turn off all of his bank cards. Like, shut off my credit card, shut off my debit card, turn them all off. And she's confused, right? Like, she's trying to make sense of what he's saying, but there wasn't really a good reason for why he was saying this. And then he hangs up. And so she's kind of left with what's going on. Then at 3 a.m., so a few hours later, he calls her back. And now he's whispering. And he's clearly terrified. In fact, Sandra Mittank, his mother, would later in an interview after this whole case really blew up, would say to a German TV station that through the phone she could tell that her son was terrified. This was not an act. This was like, he is terrified. He's fearing for his life. But he calls her at 3 and he's like, there is a group of men trying to attack me. They're gonna kill me. And he was 100% convinced of it. She, Sandra, would later say that she wished that she had asked more questions of her son, but this behavior was so uncharacteristic of him that I think his mother just kind of was like, okay, we're gonna get through the night. I'll talk to my son tomorrow. He's coming home tomorrow anyways.
I wonder what made him so adamant that men were after him to kill him. Like, were they surrounding his place? Were they knocking on his door? Like, what was it that made him think this way? This is a bizarre way to think. I think there's a group of men just waiting to kill you. Like, that's a bizarre way to think. Maybe I don't know. I don't have an explanation for it. I wonder why he was thinking that way.
But that didn't happen. So finally, after that phone call at 3, he texts his mother a little bit after that, asking her about the antibiotic he's been prescribed. And he's asking her what it is. He's listing the name, which again is cefuroxime 500. And he's asking her about it like he has no idea what it is. And she's like, that's a very commonly prescribed antibiotic that lots of people prescribe. They gave it to you. Investigators would later speak to staff at the hotel and they would review the hotel's footage, their CCTV footage. And between the first phone call to his mother at midnight and the phone call at 3 a.m., Lars had actually been pacing the halls at around 1 a.m. He'd been pacing up and down the halls and he was ducking into an elevator and hiding. And then at some point he had left for about an hour and then came back and no one knows where he went. At 6 a.m., Lars was dropped off at the airport via a taxi, and investigators would speak to the person who rode that taxi with Lars, and they would say that he seemed a bit off. They said that his pupils were very dilated. He gets to the airport and he texts his mother that he's arrived at the terminal. At this point, his mother confirmed that his flight had been booked, and she suggested to him that he should go talk to the airport doctor and just get his ear looked at one more time before he flies home. And I think on some level, she just wanted a health professional to see her son, just because the behavior he had shown over the past, 12 hours was just totally out of character. The CCTV cameras capture Lars walking into the airport, seeing this doctor, and then I'll get into what actually happens. So on camera, and you're going to see it in a minute,
I'm trying to think more on that CCTV footage from the hotel. He's walking and pacing up and down these hallways. The hallway of the hotel. Hiding in an elevator. From nobody. Because police are watching this. So they know nobody's there. But he is adamant. This Lars is. He's adamant that someone's after him. I'm more curious what was inside the antibiotic too, because it might be a common one, but whatever they give him was not. Because that did some shit to him, because he started hallucinating. Like, then he left 1 hour and no one knows where he went? Oh, God.
Lars goes into the airport. So his mother's told him that he needs to go see a doctor, and he does that. He walks over to where the doctor is, and he goes inside. Everything seems totally normal. That doctor would say that he was pleasant, but as he was being examined, the doctor looked in his ear and said, "Yep, everything looks okay. You can fly home." But the doctor would say that it was clear that Lars, he was paranoid about something. The doctor didn't know what it was. That he has no context, but he could tell that something was going on. He was fidgety. He was a little bit nervous. And then, when a construction worker came into the to the doctor's office, he had on a construction, bright, reflective vest. They were doing some renovations inside of the airport, so this is fairly normal. And apparently, this guy, this construction